What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 7th studio album by punk and alternative band Bayside. The new one is called Vacancy, and they've been one of the most consistent bands of the 2000s in my opinion. It's just consistently putting out great records that have a lot of tenacity, energy, and a very poetic aesthetic to them as well, courtesy of lead singer and lyricist, main lyricist I should say, Anthony Ranieri. Their last record, Cult, came out in 2014, and I was pretty big on that record, especially whenever it came out. And I do think that I pulled the trigger a bit quickly on giving that one a perfect score. It was something that didn't sit quite as well with me over time. Still a very enjoyable listen, but I think that I was just really hoping for something great. And at the time of a lot of albums really disappointing me, this is one that really caught my ear. And it reminds me of my Uno Green Day review. It was just a little bit too trigger happy with wanting to love it. I'm not knocking the band or their last record for that matter. I'm knocking myself for jumping into the review too quickly, so this time around with Vacancy, I made sure I gave it plenty of listens before I came to a review. The emotional stakes are higher than ever on this new record, and you see that right off the bat with tracks like 2 Letters and I've Been Dead All Day, a very sarcastic and biting track that's catchy as hell, a very sunshiny melody, but it plays it and contrasts it with some dark lyricism with being bitter about people who are maybe either religious or stick to a certain viewpoint just to appease others, talking about this married couple that are deciding to put on a facade, put on a show, just because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to look good to other people, rather than actually worrying about the important stuff and happiness in life. And I love that this record is willing to dive into subjects like that, and that's probably one of my favorite aspects of it. Bayside have always been this band not afraid to speak their minds, and Anthony Ranieri often speaks straight from the heart. Some of the tracks like Mary tell a story, and I do love that side of them, but more often than not, Bayside seem to be very personal, and obviously it's connected to Ranieri, his relationships, his marriages that he's been through, his relationship with his friends, his band, and his parents, and that comes into play on some of these tracks like The Bitter Not Fair. He's talking about reflecting on his life and looking back at age 25, like that was forever ago. I thought I had everything planned out, and then life throws you all of these curveballs. 2 marriages, 6 records, and where the fuck am I now? I don't even want to know what my life would be like 10 years from now. Musically, this record is top notch. I would highly recommend watching the inside of the track commentaries on the ones that they've released so far, at least the ones that I've seen, like from Maybe Tennessee and the opening track 2 Letters. Very informative looks into how the band made this record, and like my friend Mark over at Spin It Reviews actually said on his Twitter, he was saying, you know, for people who say that punk rock doesn't take any effort or any work, they just throw stuff together, there's so much layering that goes on with Jack O'Shea's guitars or just lining up some of the drum and bass combos. It's absolutely fantastic. Their rhythm section is on point throughout this entire record. I really don't have any complaints on how the album sounds. I'm not saying that the musicality of all these tracks just totally drew me in, like I couldn't look away or I couldn't just listen to anything else for a week straight. It wasn't necessarily like that, but there were some really standout moments. I love the driving guitar line on tracks like The Ghost, or even the closing one when it starts off a little bit slower that has a big build to it. It's not as depressing as it sounds. The lyrical content that goes along with that one as well, very poetic and a great way to send this record Vacancy off in top-notch fashion. 2 Letters has a great and Siri guitar line on it. Enemy Lines, the lead single from this thing, absolutely fantastic. I actually didn't hear any songs off of Vacancy preceding its release, so I was surprised to find out that Enemy Lines was released as that lead single. A very hard rocking single. I love the melody that O'Shea comes up with there. A very driving track, just a force to be reckoned with on Vacancy is one of the best moments. And I like how this track doesn't just flow so smoothly, like very poppy in terms of like verse to chorus and that sort of thing. He's really all over the place with his vocals and the story of the track. And it does have a very standout chorus, but it's the fact that it doesn't just seem like a chorus that's there to be catchy. It's there to tell a story, and I love it when we have songs like that, especially from Bayside. The emo tendencies definitely still boil inside of Bayside's blood, and I love that we see that on tracks like Maybe Tennessee or Pretty Vacant, one of the tracks that definitely kind of sticks with that hotel theme. And I've been seeing a lot of hotels lately. American Horror Story Hotel is something I've watched, Bates Motel, and now Vacancy by Bayside, and all of these things correlated. I feel like the Illuminati is trying to tell me something. When I listen to Pretty Vacant, I just feel like it's a song where we're listening to this guy tell us about this point in his life that he's reached. He doesn't exactly know how he got there, but it's like, ha, fuck it, I guess I'm just gonna let you guys in and tell you about where I'm at this point. I like that it does have that kind of bright shimmer to it, but it definitely evens it out with those darker lyrics that kind of pull it back down. Two of my favorite and the most catchy tracks on the record come in the form of I've Been Dead All Day, which I mentioned earlier. That track is just superb. And then of course one that comes later in the record with a fantastic guitar solo on it from O'Shea, Rumspringa, Return to Heartbreak Road. Rumspringa is something associated with Amish culture, if I'm not mistaken. I learned that from watching the movie Sex Drive. I guess that just says a lot about me right there, doesn't it?
First day of Rumspringa?
I love the way that Raniere kind of exaggerates his vocal presence on this track. Real big shit, and he just kind of holds that out, talking about somebody who thinks they're the hottest shit in town, but in reality, he's burning them to the ground, and it's a fantastic roast of sorts. The final track that I really want to talk about is Mary. It's absolutely one of Bayside's best songs in my opinion. It really stands out even on this record. It's not so much that it changes it up drastically, it's just that it tells a story of love, reconnecting with somebody from your past, even if it's just for passing in the night, whatever it may be. And she's talking about getting out of this desolate town. And we obviously see Bayside talking about small towns, things that go on in that town. It's kind of like a cesspool in a way from what we understand of it. And we see Mary as this individual that really just has a sparkle in her eye. And he sees something special in her. He wants the best for her. And I've known people like that, people that just seem stuck and you want to help them, but you're not exactly sure what to do to push them forward. Maybe that's Mary in Raniere's life, or maybe it's just a character, but it is really interesting to see it fleshed out. It reminds me of a track, Danny Dakota and the Wishing Well, by a silent film that came out a few years back, and it's not saying that it's just ripping it off or anything like that. It's just two tracks that I really thoroughly enjoy, and I love Bayside going into a different kind of mode on this record. There's a nice, solid instrumental that goes along with it. It doesn't feel super slow, but at the same time, it's just kind of a medium pace, and you need a change of pace like that sometimes in a record like Vacancy. Some of the tracks towards the end of the record just aren't that memorable to me, starting with like Maybe Tennessee, It Doesn't Make It True, and even parts of It's Not As Depressing As It Sounds. I really do like what that song is going for lyrically, it's just that I'm not totally sold on it. Overall, I do think Vacancy is a solid strike back for Bayside, another great entry into their catalog, and I'm gonna say that it's got a pretty decent replay factor. There's gonna be a good chunk of tracks that I see myself coming back to in the future. I'm going with a 4 out of 5 for Vacancy by Bayside. Let me know your thoughts on Bayside's Vacancy in the comment section down below. While you're here, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. I can't wait for you guys to see what I have planned in the coming months leading up to the release of a Green Day album. Hopefully you guys will really enjoy that, and some other stuff planned as well. Thanks for being patient with me. August was one of the busiest months of my life. I have a lot of stuff going on with my other job, but that's about to slow down big time so I can get back to making videos. So thanks for being patient with me. I know there wasn't a ton of stuff on ARTV, on the main channel at least, in August, so I'll be back to normal hopefully very, very soon. Thanks for watching. If you want to check out my last review that I did, or my last Bayside review, you can click the little annotations. All of my social media is linked in the description. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.